What's going on? What's up, y'all? What's up, Swan Don?
Man, nothing much, man. How you feeling, man? Yet another Tuesday. Once again, it is on. You know what I'm saying? How you feeling?
I'm good. I'm shell shocked from this last NFL Sunday. I just knew this was gonna be my week. I did my pick'ems. I was like, I'm gonna make me. We got a little pool at the job, and I said, okay, I'm gonna make like 240, $250. Gas money, grocery money.
Right,
Um,
right, right.
But I don't know. All these teams came together and they said, "Man, we can't fucking let Ken make this money, man." So
Yeah.
yeah, just a week full of upsets.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Even some of the guys or some of the teams who we think, like and we'll get into them, but like the Buffalo Bills, like the Kansas City Chiefs, even some of these teams who we had as upper echelon teams, you looked up and hey, they took L's as well. So it's interesting,
Mhm.
man. As with always with the NFL, man, parity. On any given Sunday, you never know. So another
And
great
this
weekend.
I said this one was full of it. So yeah, obviously guys, we're gonna be following our same program. We'll do our week 3 recap, and then of course we'll give our week 4 predictions. And I'm also, I want to hear what Swan. We'll talk a little bit, but I want to hear what Swan's opinion is, on this coach scandal in in Boston,
Man.
right? Ime Udoka, Nia Long, aka Nia Long's Bo, her husband, her baby daddy, or whatever you want to call him. But yeah, that's not a pretty situation over there. So we're definitely that's gonna be the first topic we touch on, and after that, we'll jump into our weekly football information. So Swan, you ready to get it going?
Yes, sir. Let's get into it.
Let's rock it out. And we are back and ready to jump into action
Word.
for another Rooting in Sports Tuesday, right? Got to get the people what they paid their hard-earned money for. Once again, Sunday, but we have had some interesting recent news, in the basketball world. Coach Ime Udoka
Word.
has been suspended for a year, right? For
Hmm.
what I guess a inappropriate sexual relationship with a female staff member.
We're gonna deem it. I guess that would be fraternization. I guess I don't know. To use
Because at
one
this
of our, a big term we heard in the service a lot.
fraternization,
Word,
nepotism. No, it's
word,
not. That's not
word,
nepotism. Yeah,
word.
it's somewhere in the same ballpark, right?
Right, right, right.
Right. But
But
yeah, what are your thoughts? I'll let you start out. What are your thoughts on this situation? It's a lot of details to unpack, but just tell me what your opinion is and what your take is on this situation so far.
I mean, it's really unfortunate. Let me just say first and foremost that Ime Udoka has to know better. He has to know better. Here he is, a young, hot, new, fresh head coach. Last year was his first year as a head coach. He
Phenomenal
comes
first year.
in, has a great year after a slow start. He gets this Boston Celtics team turned around, gets them to the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, and carries them all the way. I'm sorry, I think they were the number 2 seed actually.
Mhm.
I think they were the number 2 seed. But anyway, he helps coach them, and rather unexpectedly, might I add. But he helps coach them all the way to the NBA Finals, where they eventually lose in the finals to the Golden State Warriors. So a phenomenal, rookie head coaching season. And then, for this to come out is just really unfortunate, man. And there's been so many conflicted reports.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, there's been most reports, or I know the initial reports were saying that it was a consensual relationship, but it was just, I guess, against team rules for him to have that sort of relationship with whomever this individual was. Um, Other reports have came out since then, and I don't know if they've been confirmed, but I guess after that, then reports came that he was making some unwarranted sexual advances or whatnot.
Advances. Mm-hmm.
Um, all I'm gonna say is, obviously they suspended him for a year. He's got to know better. He's got to know better. Listening to the press conference that Brad Stevens and who's the Boston Celtics GM and their
Mm-hmm.
owner, and I can't think of his name right now, but listening to their press conference a couple of days ago, it seemed as if, well, actually, they said that up until this point, Ime Udoka is the only person who is receiving, any sort of repercussions from this situation. Um, I guess I don't know. My question is, and I don't know what's in Ime Udoka's contract or what specifications are in his personal contract. So let me preference by saying that. But if the initial reports are true, and if this was a consensual, relationship that was carried on within the organization, then I have to ask this question, and not to absolve Ime Udoka of any wrongdoing, because he just shouldn't have done it. Period.
Right.
Point blank. Period. If that's Celtic organization guidelines. But I was listening to Brad Stevens, and he kind of talked about a lot of, as he termed it, Instagram BS, because there's been so many
False
rumors and,
report rumors
and
and
and pictures going around of different women in the organization who
right.
may or may not have had anything to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, for me, I think the Boston Celtics as an organization, they kind of dropped the ball, from a sense that, as they said, Ime Udoka is the only one receiving consequences for what initially was reported as a consensual relationship in the workplace.
Right.
So I guess I just wonder, why isn't the other, affiliate being punished, or, whatever, if it was unwarranted in the Celtics organization. Um, and I think because this other individual doesn't seem to be getting any punishment, or hasn't been pointed out. And don't get me wrong, I don't want to sound insensitive. I don't want to sound unprotective of women.
Right.
Look at the repercussions that it has had across the other women in the organization, because they only seem to acknowledge the wrongdoing of one individual.
Right.
And I think, listening to their press conference, I think that that's one of the things that stood out to me, is because of the way they handled it. Now there's other women in the organization who have gotten unwarranted attention, and pictures have just been floated all across the internet, and they've genuinely been lied on.
Which is pretty sad.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the first lady. I forget her name because they've been throwing her picture out so much, but she didn't have nothing to do with that situation, and
Mm-hmm.
because she was just a beautiful black woman, I guess naturally they thought, they just jumped on that and said, okay, that's who he was, having
Mm-hmm.
a
I know the one chick, her name was and the reason I'm familiar with her is because I'm a WNBA fan, and I remember her from a while back. The one chick, her name was Allison Feaster, who's one of their
Allison Feaster.
assistants.
Right. All right.
And she's a former WNBA, or one of the early ones too, one of the early players in the early years of the WNBA.
Mm-hmm.
And her name and her picture was floated out there, and she had nothing to do with it.
Instantly, like that was the first picture name that people jumped on.
Exactly. And she had nothing to do with it. And that's what I mean right there, because of the way the Boston Celtics chose to handle it. Now, as a woman in the organization, you can't feel extremely secure about what's going on in the workplace. A, about the unwarranted relationship, and B, you can't feel like this organization has your back, because of the way they've handled things. Now, multiple women in these organizations have had their pictures and had their names kind of slandered, for no reason.
Now,
And we
I'll
still
say,
don't. Even now, okay, there's a TMZ report that I guess supposedly it was the team's travel
VP.
agent or something like that.
See, I keep
So,
hearing, once again, it's all these different reports, but I will say this. If it really was, I mean, because the truth will come out sooner, sooner or later, but if it was truly a consensual relationship,
mhm,
I think if I'm the Celtics PR team, you have to control the narrative or do your best to control the narrative. To
yeah,
not let things get out of line, and that means similar to what you said. Just like you have to hold Ime Udoka responsible. You have to hold the female party responsible as well. So that way, hey, look, these are the two people that messed up. They're getting punished. This is what's happening. Let's move on with it. But they're
mhm,
leaving so much up to speculation to
mhm,
where
exactly.
to where it's becoming a witch hunt. But something else, I look at I look at that I this story is that, man, everyone's tight-lipped about it. Like if you see in interviews with the players,
Mhm,
and even when you talked about you talk about the one with the executive Brad Stevens and the owner, and even Matt Barnes had an interview recently, and he posted some things on social media, uh, kind of saying he misspoke and kind of falling back on what he said.
yeah,
There, I mean, I hate to say it. I feel like it's darker than what we really know
and that may very well be the case. That may
because
very well be the case.
let's be real. These guys are professional athletes. They've seen enough. Me and you were in the military, and we've seen enough. These
Oh,
guys have watch this. These guys have seen infidelity is that.
I'm
And
sure
look,
it's rampant in
it's
not just their organization, but
in
probably
every
in multiple organizations
multiple
across
organizations.
sports.
Listen to me. A NBA player seeing infidelity is like it's Tuesday for them,
Yeah.
right? So, but when you're seeing them, they don't look normal. They're like, man, it's a lot to process. Like it's a lot to deal with. So that's what kind of scares me and makes it think that it is worse than what it really is. Now that's the worst case scenario. Now, and this is bad to say, looking at the best case scenario, if it was just infidelity, um, I mean, hey, for people that kind of want to look at Ime Udoka a certain way, obviously he's wrong. He engaging in a sexual relationship outside of his relationship or his marriage. I don't know if they're married, but this is 9.9 times out of 10. This is who this man has been for a long time. This is not me. This is not me
Not trying to bash
slamming
them
him,
or anything.
bash
Yeah.
him or anything. This isn't a new. He didn't go to Boston. I don't believe he went to Boston and just fell in love with somebody. Come on, this dude was a former
Yeah.
player himself. So,
Exactly.
and once again, it's kind of like we go back to the Deshaun Watson situation. Everybody has that chink in their armor. Everybody has that
Hmm. We're
that
only human.
low. Yeah, everybody's human. Everybody has that low part of their character. And when you listen to Ime Udoka speak, he seems like a very disciplined individual. He doesn't seem
Hmm.
like a very sloppy guy. But once again, everybody has their thing about him, and that just may be something that he's dealing with and he's working through. So, unfortunate for that organization. Obviously, they're just coming off of a NBA Finals appearance. Young players. I mean, we was kind of counting on them going back to the drawing board, working on their game, and looking
Yeah.
at making it back. But now this just complicates things.
It does, man. It makes things interesting. Um, Most teams had their media day yesterday, either Friday or yesterday. Teams are getting into training camp starting this week. The season, I believe the first NBA game is like less than a month away now. Like the first game of the regular season is less than a month away now.
Wow. So it
So
happened. It happened so close.
it did, and we're kicking in the high gear as far as the NBA goes. And then if you can look, if you've seen as far as like the Boston Celtics during their media day, and like you said, if you hear some of the players talk about it, it's just really somber, and it's surprising. They're really tight-lipped about it, and now it's like, okay, well, this is a guy who we believed in, a guy who even some of these young players may have looked up to, and now it's like, man, we're disappointed. Now we got to go out here, and I know the assistant's supposed to take over head coaching duties for this season.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, you got a feel for those players on the Boston Celtics team, and the fact that this now has to hang over their heads, for the rest of the season and moving forward. And crazy enough, bro, and not to get too far off topic, and
Yeah.
we're gonna get into the NFL or whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
but there were some interesting NBA media days. There were some interesting things being said in multiple cities. I seen
Uh,
one report talking about the Phoenix Suns. Obviously, we know what they have going on with Robert Sarver.
mm-hmm.
They asked DeAndre Ayton about uh, the Phoenix Suns matching the contract that was offered to him by the
Mm-hmm.
by the Pacers. And when I tell you that man looked so upset when they asked him, he was just like, "I mean, hey, they matched it, so here I am, still here, whatever." They asked him, "Have you
And I
talked to
and I
Coach Money Williams?" He said, "I haven't talked to Money Williams since Game 7 against Dallas." And then it was one reporter covering the Phoenix Suns in their media day. He said, and I quote, he said, "I've been in this business for over 20 years." And he was said, "That was the somber and most saddest media day I have ever been to from a single team in any sport." And he talking about the Phoenix Suns media yesterday. So
wow.
it's,
So
it's it's some interesting things, and that's just in Phoenix. I mean, we ain't
yeah.
gonna talk
All
about what Russ had to say in LA or with Brooklyn. So guys, just be on the lookout because it's gonna be an interesting NBA season.
right. They matched the contract, and here I am.
Yeah,
But
yeah, he was up. You can tell he was visibly like, I don't. You can tell he doesn't want to be there.
well, they want to fuse up with a smile and come back on his face, but they're breaking that crew up. Um, but yeah, so NBA media days, we're just, obviously we just talked about the Ime Udoka situation. Best of luck to that organization. Best of
Yeah.
luck to those players. They look like Quincy on Love and Basketball when he saw the pictures of his dad. When he found out his dad was cheating on his mom.
Oh no, man! You looked me
I
in my
mean,
face and you lied to me,
he said, "How come you couldn't be the man you was trying to make me to be?"
bro.
Yeah,
They
man,
they went
just
straight into
disappointed.
Spencer mode on All American, bro. Bro, don't get me started.
The most emotional.
I
I got
swear.
I got Crenshaw on my back.
I
Boy,
swear.
Crenshaw don't give a damn about you. Anyways, uh, so NFL Week 3 recap. All right, let's jump
Mhm.
into these games. All right, we had a buffet. We had a buffet. Can you see it real closely?
Yeah. I see you. I see you.
All right, of really solid games. Obviously, we started with the Thursday night matchup with the Steelers Browns. I took the Steelers, but obviously the Browns kind of grinded it out. Don't be taken off guard by the 29-17. That was a last minute score when they were trying to
Yeah, game
play
was
hot
definitely
potato.
closer than that. Yeah.
Yeah, the game was much closer than that, but I'll just say a really efficient game by the Browns. Nick
Hmm.
Chubb is a stud. Amari Cooper is just continues to be a very solid, consummate pro, elite route runner, and Jacoby Brissett, even as a backup, is playing some damn good football right now. At least I think he's playing at least a starter's level. He looks good.
He is, man. Amari Cooper paying dividends for him. Him and Jacoby Brissett seem to have a pretty solid rapport with each other.
Mhm.
And I mean, hey, you can say what you want about them, but at the end of the day, through 3 weeks, 2-1 is 2-1, and you can argue they should be 3-0. The Cleveland Browns
True.
really should be 3-0. So hey, they're playing tough, and I'm proud of them, man. Stefanski
Mhm.
got them really playing real tough, minus the situation with Deshaun Watson kind of hovering over them and hovering over the season. But they're playing tough. They're keeping their head above water right now, and I'm proud of them. It's a good win.
Good win. Then we got the Texans and the Bears. I know this was your squad. I don't know if you're going to talk about them later. We got our weekly 3 games that we want to cover. But Texas Bears was a grind fest.
It was.
Um,
It was. Uh, Roquan Smith made an interception with I think about 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. He got an interception, and the Bears had the ball already in Texans territory, and thus they kicked the game-winning field goal to take it. But I mean, Bears another team, and I'm a realist. I love my team. I
Mhm.
wouldn't dare sit here and say they're one of the top. I wouldn't dare say they're one of the best 10 teams or so in the league. But all you can ask of them is that they win the games that are winnable for them. And I felt like coming into the season, this was a winnable game for them. And they did come out on top. I must say that what I've seen from Justin Fields is troubling. Um, Definitely not his best game yesterday. I think he threw 2 interceptions. Definitely not his best game yesterday.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, I don't know. I another topic for another day. They're not really putting them in the. They don't really have a ton of talent around them. Another
No, they
topic
don't.
for another day. I'm glad they got the win and 2-1 against another game next week. Another game that I think is winnable for us. We got the Giants coming in next week, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. The Bears are that team, and I've been saying this, and you probably heard me say it on Rooted in Sports before. Matt Eberflus is he's a great coach. Not great head coach yet, but as a coach, man, he did big things in Indy when it comes to really building that tough blue collar culture. And obviously he was a defensive coordinator, and he built them to be that elite defensive led team. So I don't expect anything less with the Chicago Bears in time. Give him about 2 to 3 years to really build his system. And I like that even though he's a defensive coach, he's doing his best to try to make things better for the off. It's going to be a slow burn. You had all these talented players leave. Allen Robinson leave. Um, so it's going to be a definitely a process. But if they focus on building around Justin Fields moving forward, I think this defense will be elite within the next coming years, especially if they can continue and hold on to Roquan Smith and give him the extension that he wants.
For my fantasy guys, real quick. It seemed the other day David Montgomery got hurt early in the game, but
Mhm.
even before that, over the first couple of weeks, it seemed like they were kind of splitting carries now. So for my fantasy guys, Khalil Herbert, he went for over 130 rushing yesterday, and I believe he had 2 of the touchdowns. So
Yeah.
Khalil Herbert for my fantasy guys, if he's there, you might want to look into snatching him up.
Okay, so the next we got the Raiders Titans.
I
Another
say
Raiders,
it was a pretty surprising outcome for me. I think we both went Raiders in this one.
and it's just they are not finishing games, and it's not that they're not good enough. Like it's not like they can't play with, you know, with better teams, and obviously their Derek Carr didn't have a terrible game, but there's something missing. I don't know what it is. Maybe
Yeah,
they'll tweak it and figure it out. But they've had, they should have won the Arizona game last week. They really should have won this game, but they just, couldn't get off the field. You know,
hmm
couldn't make stops when they needed to. Had some missed opportunities on offense. So just really disappointing for them being 0-3. All I can say is at least their division, nobody in their division has really quote unquote pulled away. Everybody's kind of, Kansas City
yeah,
took their first loss. So, and then Denver just looks, we'll talk about them later. But, but really, really good, a solid team win for Tennessee. I think they're showing that even though that they're not talented, they're still a very well coached team. Mike Vrabel's an elite head coach in my book.
he is, man. And like you said, Derek Carr didn't have a terrible game. He threw for a little over 300, two TDs and a pick, 85 QBR. Didn't have a terrible game, but like you said, man, they're just having problems finishing games, and now they sit as the only 0-3 team in the league, which is crazy.
Right. Super crazy. So hopefully they can figure it out and get things moving soon. So then we got the Chiefs Colts, which am I jumping into this game? No, I'm not going to jump into this game. Um, I mean, I'd expect this outcome, but for the first time, you're seeing a Chiefs team that did miss Tyreek Hill because they've had you've seen
hmm
some struggles. Um, Maybe not week one against Arizona, but definitely week two against the Chargers. They missed that deep speed, spreading everything out, and
hmm
leaving a lot of stuff underneath, giving them opportunities to run, giving Travis Kelsey. opportunity to get open on slants and screens and things of that nature, and it just doesn't look the same. So you're seeing the growing pains of that. And then the Colts, they needed, I think they desperately needed to get this win after a tie and a loss. They're too talented on both sides of the ball to have
Yeah.
the record that they now, but they're figuring out. Michael Pittman Jr. came back, and
Yep.
I mean, he's literally, he did it. Obviously, last year was 1,000-yard guy, but he's really putting his name up there as one of the better number one guys in the league. So, and for the Chiefs, I have to say this, man. I was kind of glad. One thing, I'm not the biggest LaShawn McCoy fan, but I don't mind what he said. I don't mind what he said about Eric Bieniemy. I don't. He knows him firsthand. He's very vocal guy. But I mean, man, there's a reason why Eric Bieniemy isn't a head coach, and I think it's because some people know something that we don't. Like, look at the comparison between Eric Bieniemy and Byron Leftwich. Byron Leftwich was a hot name, and if I'm not mistaken, Byron Leftwich pulled his name out of the running for one or two for the Saints job, if I'm not mistaken. He just said, I just want to be an OC and take another year, focus on my craft, and when the time comes, the time comes. But you're getting other guys that are getting opportunities, are getting looked at, and Eric Bieniemy isn't yet. So to me, it's because people have a better understanding for who he is in those NFL circles.
I said this in the group chat. If that's the way he feels, that's the way he feels. That's cool. And for those that don't know, and this is a kind of a generalization here, but basically, LaShawn McCoy kind of tweeted to the effect that Eric Bieniemy doesn't know what he be talking about, and he's always getting into it with guys or whatever. However, if you didn't see it, I think that was at halftime. Patrick Mahomes and Eric Bieniemy seemed to have been at odds, and they were kind of going back and forth with each other. But I said in the group chat, I didn't, if that's how LaShawn McCoy feels, if he has that inside information, which he probably does, that's cool. But I mean, this is a guy who has been widely known as one of the head coaching candidates, black head coaching candidates, who hasn't had a job yet, who any other head coach in that situation probably would have by now, And I just hate that came out publicly because, as I mentioned to you guys, the same thing could have been said about Matt Nagy, obviously, because he did a terrible job with the Bears, but you didn't hear that. You didn't hear anybody say that. But now, I just wish he would have kind of held that to himself and not said that publicly, because it's gonna make a narrative that's already out there about Eric Bieniemy, a black head coaching candidate who probably should have at least had an opportunity by now. It makes that narrative, it carries on that narrative for him. So that was my only thing about LaShawn McCoy's comments.
Okay. I guess we'll find out this next offseason. See if it's a chance. All right. Then we had the Bills Dolphins. Once again, another surprising outcome, but the Dolphins are showing themselves to be a feisty team as well. Honestly, I don't take too much away from this game. It was a divisional game. It's not like the Dolphins aren't talented. For the Bills, I think it was just a bad day at the office. Plus, they played in Miami, so it was probably hot as hell. Guys was probably cramping up.
They said it was probably just as many, if not more, Buffalo Bills fans in that stadium than there were Dolphin fans there.
Right. I mean, Bills Mafia is crazy. They're gonna go anywhere.
Oh yeah, I don't want to dig too deep in it because this is one of the games I'm gonna touch on. There was a lot of it's some interesting numbers about this game, and shout out to the Dolphins. You know what I'm saying, getting the win, 3-0, 3-0. So shout out to them. But yeah, I'm gonna touch on that game a little later.
Okay. That's gonna be a fun one. So then we got the Lions Vikings. This one was disappointing for me because I really like this Lions team. I picked them in my weekly pick'ems. They were actually really doing well. Jared Goff was throwing the ball well, spreading out to his receivers. Jamal Williams ran the ball well, had 80 plus yards and 2 touchdowns. Obviously, he had the celebration that kind of hurt them, but
he's probably gonna get some more touches too moving forward, because I believe DeAndre Swift they say he's supposed to miss the next couple of weeks. He got a little banged up, so you're gonna see Jamal Williams get more touches in the coming few weeks as well.
And I figured as much, which is why I picked him up in fantasy. But Yeah, I mean, it's just a classic case divisional matchup. The Vikings, they're trying to scratch and claw themselves back into relevancy, and this was a game that they needed. So they fought real hard. They didn't get down on themselves, and they was able to come back and shock them and get the win. So I don't really take very much. I mean, both teams are talented, and I think both these teams can win 9, 10 plus games. Like I'm really confident in both of these teams. So
Yeah. And once again, this is another situation, as we keep saying, every week, the Lions are coming. They are moving in the right direction. But it's just another situation of a fairly young team, and they're still learning how to win and close out games. They were pretty much in control of this game for majority of the game, but the Vikings, kind of got it going a little bit, and they came back and kind of stole this one to get to 2-1. Um, Another guy with the Detroit Lions, though, obviously we mentioned Jamal Williams. Amon-Ra St. Brown, man, the kid can
hey,
play, man.
you
The
hey, come on, man.
kid can play, man.
USC. What y'all know? What y'all expected? He went to
He
USC.
he is he is, and I know they went out. They got DJ Chark in the offseason or whatnot, but he is quickly becoming their number one for sure.
I think he already pretty much already basically is. He was the back end of the 2021 season, and he's
Yeah,
just
he
picked up
finished
where he
last
left off.
season really strong. Yep, and he's picking up where he
Yeah,
left off. But yeah,
yeah,
once the Lions learn how to really close out and win games, they'll be fine.
yeah, and they're good. They got a really really good cast of players. Um, so then we got this game, Ravens Patriots. This would be one of the games that I dive a little bit deeper into.
Hmm.
This was a fun game. Obviously, the Ravens were down a little bit early on, and but they're a talented team. They got an MVP candidate, um, quarterback in Lamar Jackson right now, and obviously that reared his head, and then you see the outcome as is. But a lot of different factors into this game, and I want to talk about. It was a fun one, and yeah.
Yeah, shout out to our boy Bo. He loves his Baltimore Ravens. He loves Lamar Jackson, and um, yeah, right now through 3 weeks, Lamar Jackson is probably the favorite to win MVP. I'm gonna just go
Mhm.
out and say that.
Let's throw it out there.
And if he finished this 17 game season, on his feet, yesterday's price will not be today's, because man, that man is going to get paid. So yeah,
Oh
shout
no.
out to him. Yeah, I can't wait to hear what you got to say about that game though.
Oh yeah, a lot of fun. So, Bengals Jets. I predicted this outcome. The Bengals just played. They just played two of the best fronts that they're going to see probably all year in the Steelers and the Cowboys. And so that I knew, you play a Jets team. Granted, they have a few nice young defensive pieces, but they don't have the personnel to really truly bug Joe Burrow and keep him from getting the ball to T. Higgins,
Mm-hmm.
Tyler Boyd or Jamar Chase. Even though Jamar Chase had a pretty much quiet day because what's his
Sauce,
name? Sauce Gardner.
Sauce
Yeah, Sauce
Gardner.
Gardner
Mm-hmm.
played extremely well. So it was a good game going back and forth. The Jets tried their best, but they don't quite have enough juice right now, or I think it's cohesion on offense because Joe Burrow can throw the ball and they have the weapons. I know Garrett
Mm-hmm.
Wilson got hurt, and I think it was a head injury, like a concussion. He took
Mm-hmm.
a really big hit up the middle, but outside of that, no one else is shown. Elijah Moore is still kind of picking everything up, and Corey Davis is who he is. Corey Davis isn't going to get any better. This is just who he is as a receiver. So, yeah, pretty simple game. Bengals are just a more talented team. They got their first win, and I look forward to them marching on and winning some more games moving forward.
Yeah, Jack Flacco. Joe Flacco turned back into Joe Flacco, threw a couple interceptions. And from I think the word is, from what I seen yesterday, Zach Wilson has a possibility to come back and play this week. So it'd be interesting to get him back in there and see where his development is taking him. So yeah.
Most definitely. So then we got Eagles Commanders. This was a fun, fun game to watch. Obviously, you get to see how talented the Eagles really are. They're a confident team.
Hmm.
Jalen Hurts is doing a lot more as a passer. They're running the football, even though they haven't had high totals. They're running the football very efficiently, and they just have some really great receiving talent.
Oh yeah.
Devonta Smith. They still got AJ Brown, Quez Watkins, Dallas Goddard. Just a really, really complete team. And then I mean, nobody really thought that they were. I didn't give the Commanders a chance. I didn't really think that they were going to do anything. Either way, I think this game played out how I thought it would.
Mm-hmm.
Defensively, the Eagles were able to finally get their pass rush going. The Commanders, if anyone doesn't know it, they have protection issues. So this isn't the offensive line they had a few years ago where they were elite. No, that's done. So they have really, really, really bad protection issues, and the Eagles took advantage en route to 24-8. My only knock, I'll say, on the Eagles, and I think that if they don't get this fixed, it will get them beat, is that they are not a four-quarter football team. They're a
Mm-hmm.
first half. They're a first half start fast football team, and when it comes time when they have to start playing better teams, you better
Mm-hmm.
play four quarters, and you better keep that foot on the gas, or somebody gonna come back and beat you.
Great,
So
great point there.
yeah,
I'm gonna probably talk about this game as well. I actually,
Mhm.
I think I watched this game in its entirety. So I'm gonna
Mhm.
actually touch on that game there as well. But yeah,
Uh-huh.
you're right. It was kind of ugly from Washington's standpoint. At one point, midway through the third quarter, they had like -1 total yards. So it was a
Mhm.
little ugly. But yeah, I'll get into it in a minute.
Okay, definitely looking forward to that take. So then we got the Saints Panthers, right? Another score nobody expected. I just knew the Saints and this defense and this defense and this strong cast of offensive weapons were going to take over. But obviously, Jameis Winston has continued his struggles. You
Hmm.
see you see to the right, he went 25 for 41. That's not a good ratio. And then the Panthers were just able to grind it out, make a few stops on defense. Christian McCaffrey was able to kind of get back to being his
McCaffrey
normal
got it
self.
going. Hmm.
Yep, they gave him his volume, 25 carries, 108 yards. He also did a little bit in the receiving game as well. But just, I mean, I would say this is a classic divisional matchup. I still think the Saints are the better team, but the Panthers were just able to take advantage on that day. And, I think the only thing that will continue to hold the New Orleans Saints back is they have to get that offense together. They're too talented. James, it's all going to fall on Jameis Winston. Obviously, he's battling an injury, but he's going to have to be the glue to kind of bring that offense together. And if they can get to scoring points with that defense, they're going to win a lot of football games.
Yeah, I think that's the last game I'm gonna probably hit on. Good win for the Carolina Panthers. Baker Mayfield didn't light up the scoreboard or the stat sheet at all, but he
Yeah.
did play mistake-free football, and it worked out for him. The defense came up with a really solid effort, and they got their first win of the season. The Saints got some issues, but I'll get into that later.
Oh yeah. So then we got uh, Jacksonville and LA.
I
I
think
love
this
this
was the
game,
most surprising outcome of the day for me. Not so much that Jacksonville won,
but
but
how they won.
how convincingly they won this game.
Well, remember on Rooting the Sports chat, I told you I took this game.
Hmm.
Remember, I told you I'm taking Jacksonville, and I just felt like they matched up really well. We're not looking right now, but this Jacksonville defense is nice.
They are.
They're young, they're big, they're fast. They have talent at every single position. I mean, safety all the way down to defensive tackle. They have talent all around, and they're ready to play against some of the upper tier, better offenses in the league. Especially when like the Chargers that that at the time still without Keenan Allen, and then Austin Eckler
Hmm.
didn't have his best game. But I
Yep.
mean, man, it I can't say enough about this Jacksonville team. Doug Peterson knows how to build a winning culture.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
he's doing wonders. Trevor Lawrence is getting more and more confident every single week.
Hmm.
He's utilizing the weapons on offense. Marvin Jones. I think Zay Jones is going to have a career year there. And I mean, hey, I'll say this: we need to go ahead and apologize to Christian Kirk right now because Christian Kirk is looking like he's going to have a
Yeah.
career high year.
Yeah.
Um, so
Um.
that what are you going to
I,
say?
yeah. I was just gonna say. You mentioned Trevor Lawrence, 28 for 39,
Mhm.
262, three TDs, no interceptions, 115. I'm sorry. Yeah, his rating was 115.5. Um, I mean, you seeing Trevor Lawrence really take that step here in his sophomore, so his second season there, and he's really starting to pay dividends and show why he was a top pick. And then I've always had an affinity for James Robinson. It looks like I know they still have Travis Etienne, but it looks like they're primarily going to give James Robinson a lot more of their touches, and he's dynamic not just in the run game but in the pass game as well. And then, like you said, man, Christian Kirk is showing that he was worth every penny that we thought they overpaid him. So
He
this is a
is.
really, really good win for them. Interesting to see where they go from here. As far as the Chargers, I don't know. I don't know exactly how healthy Herbert really was. A, B, they really miss Keenan Allen. They really miss Keenan Allen, especially
Which he should be back this upcoming week.
and hopefully that really helps them out. And then I don't know. Obviously I got Austin Eckler on both of my fantasy teams and both of my fantasy leagues. I don't know what's going on there, and to be quite honest, looking at this game here against Jacksonville, they didn't run the ball much at all. Eckler only had 4 carries. He did have 8 receptions, but he only had 4 carries. They only ran the ball 12 times as a team for 26 yards. So I mean, I don't know what's going on. I know Staley's more of a defensive coach. I'm not sure exactly what's happening, but the Chargers really need to figure some things out. And luckily for them, the only team to get a win in that division this week was the Broncos. So they're not falling too far behind.
And it took a safety to do
exactly.
it.
Exactly.
Right. So I agree. Very surprising outcome, but long season ahead. Then we got the Rams. Let's go ahead and obviously got to speed through some of these other ones so we can get into our deep dive. But
Okay.
Rams, Cardinals. I mean, same divisional matchup. To me, both teams look. As a matter of fact, I will jump into this game. So let me go ahead and cut that. I'll be jumping a little bit more into this game, but very ugly, unexciting game. You probably would have had to have been a fan of the team to sit there and watch it. Both teams look sloppy. But yeah, the outcome is the outcome. The Rams were able to pull a win out of that one.
Yeah. And the Rams, they not looking like that dynamic offense that we known them to be thus far. You know what I'm saying? So they got some things. I know it's still early, week 3, but they got some things to figure out. And then, I mean, the Cardinals, as far as the Cardinals, and I know Hollywood Brown had a good game. He had about 14 for 140 or something like that. But if at this point in time with the Cardinals, if Kyler Murray isn't just amazing, just outer worldly, they won't win a game.
That's true. I mean, but hey, that's what they paid him the big bucks for prematurely. Without you doing it off of potential. Number 1 overall pick, hasn't won a playoff game, so gave him the money. But once again, like I said, we'll jump a little bit more into that game, or especially to those two teams. So then that's that game. So then we had the Falcons Seahawks. I actually enjoyed this game, especially
two really feisty teams, 2 hard playing teams. If you watch this game, you wouldn't guess that their records are 1 and 2.
No, you would not. You absolutely would not. Both teams have played hard, and the Falcons have played good actually every week against every opponent, and they've played good opponents, which is why I picked them this week to beat the Seahawks. They played New Orleans week 1, had them on the ropes, and then they played the Rams and almost came back and beat them. So this is a very young, talented. They're supposed to be in a rebuild, but it seems like they're like, fuck a rebuild. We're gonna try to jumpstart this thing now.
But I love that attitude.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. Why should you? Who's gonna go? Oh, this is a rebuild year for us. They're gonna be like, rebuild? What the fuck are you talking? You're trying to win now. But they were finally able. I think the difference was, one, Cordell Patterson is acting a goddamn fool at running back. I don't know if we've ever seen this before. We've never seen a guy come into the league as a wide receiver. Then become, I mean, I guess
make his name as a kick returner.
As
all-pro kick returner.
Pop, watch this. And Hall of Famer being that good as a returner.
Yeah.
And then say, okay, I'm a running back now. I've just and be successful, right? And he's looking like an all-pro, like at the the way he's running, he's gonna mess around and be a all pro bowler at running back. But Cordell Patterson, um, and finally, they were finally able to get Kyle Pitts involved in the passing game, which
They
I
were.
think he's their best player right there. He's the best player. It's paramount to get the ball in the hands of your best player, and they were able to do that. And that's why they were able to edge out a win. The Seahawks, once again, feisty team, but they're just lacking talent in certain positions, and you can only expect so much of Geno Smith. So that's my
And
thoughts
I
on that
and
game.
I didn't think Gino played. I didn't think Gino played terribly.
No, he didn't.
He threw for over 300 yards. I think thus far this season he's been playing pretty well. And I think despite how hard they're going to play, I think that the Seahawks are going to be up toward the top of the draft next year. They're probably going to be looking at one of these quarterbacks. But Gino is playing for a job next year. So
He is. Yeah, so hopefully he can take advantage of the opportunity because he's kind of grown on me in recent weeks. But
mhm.
good, good, smooth win for them. So then you had the Packers Buccaneers. This is the last game I'll be covering. Ugly, ugly outcome, but obviously two Hall of Fame quarterbacks, but two teams in a transition that are figuring it out, but are still 2-1. So all's not bad. So it was a good little locking of the horns, but
Mhm.
clearly both teams have some things to work out. But once again, I'm about to jump into that here in the next within the next 15 to 20 minutes.
Yeah, Tampa Bay's defense is special. Obviously, they were without their top three wide receivers. They signed Cole Beasley on Tuesday and had him out there running routes. So, yeah, I'm interested to hear what you thought about that game, man. But
Mhm.
yes, it was 14-12. It was a little ugly.
It definitely was. So then we got the 49ers Broncos game. You said ugly. This might have been the ugliest game I've
The
ever seen in my
ugliest
life.
game.
In my life. In my life. Hey, look, Aswan, I can't make this up. That was the ugliest fucking game I ever seen in my life.
Oh my goodness, man!
And
But
I'm watching this shit like, dude, this is really an NFL football game. I mean,
I,
and
I said
and
to myself, I refuse to cover this game. I refuse to talk about this.
I look, I thought about it, but I didn't know if I had it. I didn't have it in me. I'm like, dude, it's just bad. Broncos look bad offensively. They're the most disgraceful 2-1 team ever. Still
Man.
dealing with injuries, but man, they play so they underachieve so much for as much talent as they have. They're not explosive on offense. They have no kind of cohesion, no nothing.
Hmm.
Nathaniel Hackett doesn't know what the hell he's doing. All I can say is that defensively, they have some strong pieces so they're able to stand up at a couple times at a few moments. But yeah, just overall a sloppy game once again. Jimmy Garoppolo had the safety. That's what ultimately gave the Broncos the points and really gave them the win to score. But it would have been like 10. Was it 10-8, 10 to
Yeah.
9? So just an ugly game overall.
And I
So
think I think for the Broncos, I think they need to just go ahead and make the full time transition to Javonte Williams being their primary back and just increase his touches and
and
increase his
he's
workload. He's
and
been
he's
splitting
built
it
for
with
it.
Melvin Gordon. He's built for it. He's been splitting touches with Melvin Gordon. And I don't know if people notice. Obviously, that's an ugly game, but Melvin Gordon has a fumbling problem. He
He
has like
does.
3 or 4 fumbles already on the season.
Oh
Like
wow.
he is coughing that thing up.
Yeah.
He had two more Sunday.
Jesus Christ. Well, I bet you they decrease his carries after that.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I agree. Javante Williams, give him the ball more. He's a strong runner. He's a guy you can give a lot of volume to, 20, 25 plus carries, and he just runs so hard. So yeah, I agree. So yeah, not really much to say that ugly ass game. I'm just glad it's over. We don't gotta see it again. Um, so then you had this game, Cowboys Giants came on last night. Um, I mean, not really much of a surprise. Dallas is just continuing to show people that they're probably one of the top 4 or 5 defensive units in football right now. You know,
Oh yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's just at this point, it's just becoming embarrassing. Micah Parsons played sick. Said he was at about 50, 60%. He had a real bad cold or flu, but didn't have COVID, obviously. And he played. They kind of limited his snaps, but DeMarcus Lawrence
That's
had 3 sacks.
I was gonna say between Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence and then Doris Armstrong, like I think the Cowboys can make a legit argument as to having one of, if not the best front four right now, in the league, man. I mean, those guys are getting after it.
I mean, they are, but it's been a process for them, and Dan Quinn has really done well in teaching them how to rush off each other. You can tell they're getting very good at that, utilizing the pressure that's falling on another player, whether it be Lawrence or whether it be Parsons, to free somebody else up. Just playing selfless front four ball. But you mentioned Dorrance Armstrong. I don't know if you remember me saying this in Rudin Sports Chat, and getting shot down, and people pulled out swords and torches on me. But remember, Dallas, everybody was going crazy when Dallas let go of Randy Gregory. And, I was telling people it's not that big of a drop off. Randy Gregory's talented, but he hasn't done anything to say that, oh my gosh, the world's over. And the truth is I can argue that Dorrance Armstrong has probably played better, if not just as good, if not better than Randy Gregory has so far in Denver. So,
Yeah,
so it's
no, that's
looking
fair.
good
That's
for.
fair.
Yeah, so it's looking good for defensively. Offensively, they still have some things to figure out. But Cooper Rush is doing, and I expected it because he's been in that system for so long. But he's doing really well, just managing the game. They got the running game going, which I thought was good because that's what it really keeps Cooper Rush clean.
Hmm.
They rushed for 178 yards. Tony Pollard 105 and Zeke 73. So both average obviously well over 5 yards per carry. So get that running game going. Offensive line is starting to gel a little bit more. Jason Peters had his debut.
Oh,
He had his
old
debut.
man, old
Old
man.
man, yeah, had his debut at left guard of all spots, instead of left tackle because Tyler Smith was playing well, and so then once again they were able to get a few things going, but still going to need some continuity. CeeDee Lamb have to step up, and then hopefully they can get Dak Prescott back, if not by week 5, maybe week 6, and get that warmed up, and then they'll be getting Michael Gallup back here soon too. So this could be a team. I told people this could be a team that could be formidable. I think if the NFC is smart, or if you look at the NFC East, you look at the Philly. If they're smart, I think you go ahead and put your foot on this team's throat and don't let them get back up, because if you let a team come back from this type of adversity, it's gonna be hell to pay come December. So uh,
I agree.
that's Dallas. The Giants. I mean, they really played the same game they've been playing the last 2 to 3 weeks. They just this time they just played a slightly more talented, or not slightly, a lot more talented defense that didn't allow them to
Hmm.
move the ball or do some of the things that they wanted to do. So once again, I'm not down on them. I actually like what the Giants are building. I just think they need more talent, obviously at the quarterback position. But
And I
you
told you,
know,
I've been out on Daniel Jones for about 2 years now, man. I mean,
and,
I think it's just time for them to cut their losses and move on from them.
and crazy enough, he didn't play a horrible game. He actually, he ran a lot. He used his feet a lot. We know he's an athlete, but yeah, they just weren't able to put enough together to really beat this team. And Dallas's talent showed itself. And then when the chips were down and the defense needed to make a play, obviously they had the talent and the star power to do it. So that's really kind of the end of that story. So both teams will move on. Obviously, you mentioned the Giants play the Bears next week, and the Cowboys will play the Washington Commanders.
Yeah, and I just want to say that I'm happy to see Saquon Barkley healthy, and he looks like he's really regained that burst, and so it just made me happy to see him playing well thus far this season.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. And he looks spry. He looks like he's gained his confidence back.
Hmm.
And I am looking forward to see how he closes out this season, if he can get back to his, or get back, truly continue to push and get back to that Pro Bowl, All Pro level that he was at in year 1, year 2. So yeah, let's do a quick dive into. I want to hear the teams that you had. You had 3 teams. Let's hear a little bit of a dive
So, first game was this Miami Dolphin Buffalo Bills game. Once again, Miami did come out on top, 21-19. Buffalo had a chance toward the end of the game to go for, or they were driving, had a chance to possibly go for a game-winning field goal. However, they weren't able to get up, and they got tackled in bounds. They weren't able to get up to the line in time and spike the ball for what would have been a pretty long field goal, probably about a 57, 58, 8 yarder. And Miami ended up finishing it out and coming up with the win. Um, I mean, great game from Josh Allen, 400 passing yards, went for 2 touchdowns. One of the concerning things that, and I think I said this last week about the Bills. This is their first loss on the season. One of the concerning things with the Bills for me, really their only concern for me, is they still have yet to really find a running game, and it's been that way for quite a while now. They can't continue on as Josh Allen being their leading rusher, you know, and which
They're
he
gonna get him
was
hurt.
yesterday. They're going to
Yeah,
get him hurt, and he's a
yeah.
big physical back, big physical runner. But they're going to get him
Yeah.
hurt. He was a leading rusher yesterday with 47 rushing yards. So they need to. Although as a team they had over 100 rushing yards, but I think you like to figure something out as far as with your running backs, because once again you can't continue to have Josh Allen leading you in rushing yards. A couple stats from this game that I really wanted to run out. Now, if I told you that one team had 497 yards of total offense, if I told you Buffalo had 497 total yards of offense to Miami's 212, and if I told you that Buffalo won the time of possession 40, you could say 41 minutes to 19 minutes for the Miami Dolphins, you would have swore down
That
that
they blew this
Buffalo
team.
crushed this team, blew this team out.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, they came away. They came away with a 2 point loss. One of the big things though is that Buffalo in their red zone opportunities, they were 2 for 4. Vice Miami scored touchdowns on all three of their red zone possessions, thus the 21 points. And there's your game right there. Buffalo's getting they still able to move the ball as they always do, but whether it was a stupid penalty here or not being able to pick up the yardage running the ball that they needed, they did have some injuries on the team as well. Um, and you looked up and they lost a game that they really dominated statistically. And so on the flip side, I'm gonna talk about the Miami Dolphins.
Hmm.
They are 3-0, but I can't quite say that I'm all in on the Dolphins yet.
Right.
Because if I'm being honest, they probably should have lost the last 2 weeks. If you look at this game statistically, they probably should have lost this one. And then we know what happened last week against
Against the
Baltimore,
Baltimore Ravens. Yeah.
and they should have lost that one. So I can't quite say that I'm all in on this team yet. Um, I think Tua got hurt. He left the game for a little while, came back, and there's been a little controversy as far as if he had a concussion or not. Because if you watch the footage of him on the field when he got hurt, it did not look good. So actually, the NFL is supposed to be investigating that. But I mean, pretty pedestrian numbers. Threw for 186 and a touchdown. He was 13 for 18, so pretty solid completion percentage. Jalen Waddle with another 100-yard game. They really were able to kind of keep Tyreek Hill under wraps. He had 2 catches for 33 yards. So, I mean, once again, I can't say that I'm all in on this Miami Dolphin team yet. They are 3-0, but we'll see what happens with them moving forward. And then another thing quickly for Buffalo. Buffalo, I believe they lost Micah Hyde for the season,
That's bad.
which could be a
That's bad.
huge loss for them. So we'll see what happens with both of these teams moving forward. Let's see here. Let me get back.
And
Go
I'll
ahead. I'm
say
sorry.
this. No, I'll just leave it at this. I still firmly believe that Buffalo is the better team. I just think they had a
Oh
bad day
yeah,
at the office.
absolutely.
I still,
They're still the best team in the AFC to me. In the league,
yeah,
excuse me. They're still the best team in the
yeah,
league to me.
and like, yeah, they just had a bad day at the office. It was just one of those days.
It was. My next game here. like I said, I watched a vast majority of this game, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles and the Washington Commanders. Philadelphia
Mhm.
ended up winning this game 24-8. They jumped out on them early, and they pretty much just held on. The defense kind of took them the rest of the way. Um, Philly, actually, I believe they were up 24-2. I believe they were up 24-2 going into halftime. Um, if I consider, I'll say this: if I consider Lamar Jackson my MVP front runner right now, I know a lot of people are going to go throw Josh Allen's name out there. I got to throw Jalen Hurts second on that list for me personally.
Uh,
Um, I
okay.
think that, I mean, the kid has been playing some ball. We've been talking about the progression that Lamar Jackson is making in the pocket. I think we got to have that same conversation about the way Jalen Hurts has progressed in the pocket. And
Hmm.
it also does help that they went out and got him a legitimate number one receiver who is
Hmm.
doing extremely well thus far this year. And then
Right.
on the other side, they have a guy who a lot of people consider to be a number one guy as well, in Devontae Smith, who
Right.
went off in this game. He had 8 for 169 and a touchdown. AJ Brown had 85 yards receiving and a touchdown. Jalen Hurts' final numbers was 22 for 35, 340 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Um, I think for me right now, he's probably second on my MVP list. He through 3 games, he really hasn't had a bad game. You did mention some earlier that is true, and it is something to look out for in the fact that thus far, Philadelphia has been jumping all over teams on the first half,
Yeah.
and then it's been a little lackluster in the second half, but they've been able to build these leads, and the defense will kind of hold on. I think that Sunday was the first time we really seen the defense play up to the talent that they have on that end.
That's
And I
true.
mean, obviously, they were playing against the red. I always want to call
Watch
them
it.
the Redskins.
Watch the football team.
Yeah, they were playing against the Washington football team, which leaves a lot to be desired. Obviously, their O line isn't all that great, but to go out there and get 9 sacks, I mean, 9 sacks is 9 sacks, no matter how you put it. And so and they were really doing it a lot with their front four. So they were able to really go out there and generate some pressure. And like you said though, if there's one thing about this team that is really concerning to me, is the fact that they are kind of jumping all over teams in the first half of games. And
Hmm.
when they go against teams that are at their level as far as talent wise, and they go against better teams, they're gonna have to have more complete 4 quarter efforts.
You're gonna have to that 24, and this is mind you, this is the second week they've done it. They did it against Minnesota as well. That
Mm-hmm.
24 has to turn to 42 or 50 or at least
Yeah.
35, 38. But you let teams hang around, and to tell you the truth, Washington had some opportunities. That's a plenty of drive opportunities to come back and get into that game. But obviously they were not. They didn't have the talent, or they were just struggling a little bit. But I'll say all that to say that if they don't get that fixed, that's gonna get them beat by some good teams.
Yeah, Washington's offense really didn't get anything going until really late into the third quarter. Like I said, at one point in the third quarter, they had -1 total yards as a team. A lot of that have to do with giving up 9 sacks. And I think if when your O line's playing that bad and a team is getting that much pressure on you, your offense isn't going to generate anything. If you can't keep your quarterback upright, your offense isn't going to generate anything. And so they Philly jumped all over them in the first half, and obviously the Commanders, we don't expect much from them. They have some issues. They got some things that they need to get together, um, at, namely on that offensive line. But we'll see what happens with them. No, I believe you said the Commanders, the Cowboys play the Commanders next week. I believe, right?
They do. They do.
So we'll see what happens if they can kind of fix a few things up from there, and then we'll see what happens with these Philadelphia Eagles as well, and if they can continue on this way. Really impressed with what I've seen from Jalen Hurts thus far this year, though. And
100%.
and then let me get to my third game, which was the New Orleans Saints at the Carolina Panthers. Carolina came out on top in this game, 22-14. Um, Jameis Winston with another 2 interceptions. I think they asked Dennis Allen after the game about Jameis Winston and his play, and he kind of doubled down, saying that Jameis Winston is going to be their starting quarterback moving
Uh-huh.
forward. So, I mean, at least publicly, he's still showing some support for him. But I think the question has to be asked at this point because oh, before he got hurt last year, he got off to a really solid start. But thus far this year, he seems to be turning back into kind of that turnover machine that we've seen him be in Tampa
In
Bay.
Tampa Bay, yeah.
Um, he do like I said, threw for 353, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Alvin Kamara came back this week. He had 15 for 61, about 4 yards a carry. Nothing too crazy. They didn't really get him involved too much in the passing game. We've been talking about some of these, rookie wide receivers. I know we mentioned Drake London last week. Chris Olave is another one who's had a
He,
really, really good start to the season thus
he
far.
has. He has.
And
He looks
so
good.
he does.
He's
He does.
He's transitioned very well. It's almost like there's not a rookie learning curve for him. Like he came in already being like that consummate pro.
Word. I mean, obviously, this Saints defense, they're going to be a top 10, possibly top 5 unit. But offensively, and I think I mentioned this last week or a couple weeks ago, my problem or my worry with this team was just with Dennis Allen taking over, with an offensive mind and offensive genius like Sean Payton moving on. I just kind of wonder would this offense still operate the same? And thus far, under
It has
Jameis
not.
Winston, it has not. They definitely got some things to figure out. I on the panic meter right now, I'm not gonna go too crazy. I'm gonna give it I'd say maybe a 5 on a panic meter right now. And I think I'm
Mhm.
saying that more so because that's the type of confidence I have in this New Orleans Saints defense. And I think there's gonna be some games where they'll just carry them if Jameis Winston can stay mistake free.
Mhm.
But they got some things that they have to figure out offensively. And then over on Carolina side, once again, Baker Mayfield didn't blow you away. 12 for 25. So he completed less than 50% of his passes, 170 a touchdown. But more importantly, he didn't turn the ball over. As you mentioned earlier, they was able to get Christian McCaffrey involved. He went for over 100 yards. He hit Laviska Shenault for a long, I think it was a 67-yard touchdown, long touchdown, and that kind of got them the momentum, kind of broke the game in their favor, and the defense held on for them. So and this is a divisional win. So
Right.
hopefully this is a win that Carolina can possibly build off of, because as we always say, they got the talent there. They're also another team who has lost some close games thus far this season as well. I think week 1 they lost on a 58-yard field goal. They were in the game last week. They lost on a field goal last week to the Giants. So they've been right there. They've been battling. Defense has been playing surprisingly well. They've been battling. They've been hanging around, but I'm interested to see where they go the rest of the season as they were finally able to get a win against a quality opponent in the division, and they were able to finish one out. So I'm interested to see where things go from here for them.
And like I said, I think you hit it right on the head. It's you can't get too down on the Saints right now because it is a divisional game. A divisional game, anything goes.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You could be the best team in the world, and the other team they could have one win to their name, but since it's a divisional game, they're gonna stand up
They're
to
gonna
play
get
you.
up for it. Yes, sir.
Exactly, and that's what you saw with that Carolina game. Obviously a few things swung their way, but the Saints right now they're a flawed team. So I think it's good that they lost that game rather than lose to a better team. So if they're able to make the necessary patches on offense, once again they can win a lot of because that defensive unit is good. They have a really good defensive unit, and they have the pieces on offense. It's all about obviously can they improve at quarterback? Can Jameis Winston clean his act up, and can they kind of get some cohesion going on there? But I agree, really, really great series.
We're
Great game.
So let me hear these games you want to get into, my brother.
So, obviously, the first one that I was really that really caught my eye that I enjoyed watching was the Baltimore Ravens New England Patriots game, and I think it was a tale of two very different teams. Both have lost, some talent at certain positions. But it was a well fought game throughout. You never, even though Baltimore was the more talented team, you never felt like New England was just out of it and that they were just getting their face kicked in at all. As a matter of fact,
Hmm.
early on, New England jumped on them and New England was up. And Baltimore. There was a time where Lamar Jackson only had about 60 yards passing, and he had an interception. So early on, they were not playing very well. Um, and New England kind of was getting some things going. But for Baltimore, after a while, I mean, I don't know. It's just right now, Lamar is just he's just in this ultra
Yeah.
instinct, level mindset, and he hit that switch, and they got the quick passing game going, and next thing you know, he's hitting Mark Andrews, he's hitting Rashard Bateman, he's hitting some of his running backs, Justice Hill, J.K. Dobbins played a little bit. He came back and had his 2022 debut. And obviously he was running as well. And before you knew it, this Joker had scored four. He had thrown for four touchdowns, and I
Yep.
want to say towards the end he ran for one.
Hmm.
So, and defensively, on the other end, obviously New England isn't that talented on offense, but I think defensively Baltimore held up despite still figuring some things out. They're still trying to figure things out in the pass rush department. They have a buffet of secondary players hurt. I know Marcus Peters is still banged up. Marlon Humphreys. They've lost safeties. They've lost nickel corner. They've lost a lot.
It,
But
it seems like the Ravens are always nicked up, bro. Like
they're snake bitten.
they are always big injuries to key players, man. And it's just always like that for them.
Yeah. But they're a well coached team, and in the end, they were able to stay disciplined and just keep chugging, and they were able to come out and pull that one out in the end. They jumped ahead. New England tried to come back, and then obviously they weren't able to cover the necessary ground. But I just have to say this once again and double down. Right now, Lamar Jackson is just playing at a different level, and if he continues to play like this, then we're going to have to start mentioning him and as a third in that conversation with Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. If he keeps
Oh
playing
yeah.
like this, we're gonna have to put him and include him in that conversation. So he's looked every bit of phenomenal. And honestly, this was a him win. I mean, I'm not saying this team
Yeah.
didn't do anything, but
Hmm.
this was him being phenomenal, picking his team up off the canvas against a even though if they're not calling New England Patriots team, and really grabbing the win. So I'm excited for what they have moving forward. They have a tough matchup. I want to say next week they play Buffalo next week, so that's gonna be a fun him trading blows with Josh Allen. But I was very impressed with what I seen from him. And let's please stop getting down on the receivers. Mark Andrews is an All Pro tight end.
Oh yeah. He's
Rashad
he's a
Bateman.
he's a top three tight end in the league to me.
Top, right. That's fair enough. Top three, wherever. But he's a top tier, super elite guy. Rashad Bateman is a first round guy last year, and he's playing really good ball in
Hmm.
his second year. And then you also got guys like Devin Duvernay.
Well, he
Um, you
seems to
know,
have a really solid rapport with Duvernay.
Exactly. Like they have some solid guys. J.K. Dobbins is coming back, and obviously he's adding a different element as well. But they really have some weapons. They're not a weapon deficient team. They may not have the caliber or of certain other teams, that certain other quarterbacks have, but he has guys that he can throw the football to in tandem with that rushing attack with him and Justice Hill, J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards whenever he comes back. So
And
that's
just to show
yeah.
how out of worldly Lamar Jackson has been, I seen a stat earlier today. He's the first player. I think he was the first player in NFL history to throw for at least 3 touchdowns and run for over 100 yards in consecutive games. Just to show you how out of worldly he's been of late. So, as the young folks say, man, he's in God mode. You know.
Oh my God, he on X Games mode. Uh, but then for the Patriots, it's funny they lost, and obviously, unfortunately, Mac Jones got hurt. He had a very very severe high ankle sprain,
He said he'll miss some
and
time.
yeah, and he looked like he was in pain, like excruciating pain. Like he was grimacing. Like usually high ankle sprains, guys just kind of take it to the head, like it hurts, but he was in pain. But
Mm-hmm.
one thing you that I was excited to see is it looked like they started to find life on offense. And
Mm-hmm.
first of all, y'all, I didn't know Mac Jones could move around like that. Mac Jones was running and juking folk, and he running for first downs, and I'm like, where the hell is this coming from? I guess he just
Right.
saw. I don't know. I guess he just
He
he
seen
saw
Lamar on
some.
that other end and said, "Hold fast, hold my
I
beer."
y'all, I've never seen Mac Jones, even when he was at Alabama. I've never seen him move around and juke people and double and jab step. I've never seen him do any of that, but he did it yesterday. And he's starting to finally build a rapport with Devontae Parker. Devontae Parker had a really big
Yeah,
game. I want to say he
five for
had
50, 156.
5 for 156. He had a couple impressive sideline catches. Um, and they just really look like they're starting to figure it out. Obviously, Mac Jones threw 3 interceptions. It's gonna be. I mean, it may not be so pretty moving forward because he's gonna be gone just as you were starting to heat up. That happens,
Mm-hmm.
but
I still question. I still want to know who's calling these plays offensively. Like we still don't know who's calling the plays.
unknown. And look, inconclusive. We don't know who it
Right.
is. It's a unknown person in the press box with a mask
Word.
on, right? So very unknown at this point. But once again, I'm encouraged by what I'm seeing from the Patriots from an offensive standpoint. Defensively, they did some good things. Deatrick Wise had 3 sacks,
Mm.
but I think it's kind of unfortunate to see where they're at defensively now because if they were the defense go with what they have right now, I think they'd probably be 2-1 as well.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't have that star power on defense anymore. That's gone. Dante Hightower's gone. Uh, Kyle Van Noy is gone. You know, granted they got Matthew Judon, and I mean he does his best, but they don't have that solid unit with all these veteran savvy guys that can really carry a game. They used to be able to be a defensive led defense first team, but they can't do that right now. Their defenses are good enough, and on offense they're not talented enough. So they're gonna have to weather the storm. It's gonna be tough, tough sledding, but hopefully they can get Mac back somewhere within the next 4 to 5 weeks. I don't know. I don't know what their record's going to look like, but for how can we these young guys moving forward? Because now it's about rebuilding a brand new regiment of guys that you can develop. So that's what I seen from that game. It was really fun to watch, competitive to the very end.
Word. Word.
And so then the next game that I saw was the Rams Cardinals game, and these are obviously they're divisional rivals, but these are two flawed ass teams. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the Cardinals they're devoid of talent in key positions. Obviously, we know DeAndre Hopkins is still suspended for about 5 or 6 games. Offensive line also has some growing to do. You got Hollywood Brown kind of what do you say, moonlighting or masquerading as their number one wide receiver, masquerading.
He
Uh,
went up yesterday though.
yeah, I mean, no, he did, and it's not that he's bad, but he can't be a guy that that can carry you.
Mm-hmm.
They have a out of his prime AJ Green. I mean, it's almost sad
Sure.
watching AJ Green play now. Um,
Hello.
it's just so less talent. They lost Chase Edmonds to Miami, so they got James Conner. And then defensively, you guys, they just don't have anything. They don't have. I mean, Jordan Hicks left. They lost Chandler Jones. I mean, it's really only J.J. Watt. And to tell you the truth, I thought one thing that was alarming about Arizona was that they couldn't get more pressure and get to Matthew Stafford a lot more because the Rams have protection issues.
Yeah.
And I'll talk about that in just a second. But so when you're looking at the Cardinals, you're like, wow, like you only have one guy that can consistently generate pressure, and that's just where they're at. They don't have talent in their front seven like that. Not and I mean, granted, maybe you were hoping on that linebacker of Zaven Collins and Isaiah was it Isaiah? I forget the kid Isaiah from Clemson, who was a safety linebacker, defensive end. But it just that
Simmons,
hasn't
Isaiah Simmons.
Isaiah Simmons, right? But that hasn't quite panned out as well. So just really rough on their end. And like we talked about for Kyler earlier, they paid you that contract. They knew you had never won a playoff game. They want you to deliver. So unfortunately, you gotta
Yeah,
shut up. You got you
he's gotta be amazing.
Yeah, you got paid your contract before ever even winning a playoff game. So they gave it to you in good faith. So now you got to deliver on that. As for the Rams, once again, they don't look like a contender to me. Not in the least bit. Defensively, they're still formidable. At
Mm-hmm.
formidable at best. Aaron Donald still Aaron Donald, but you know, Bobby Wagner is not the same Bobby Wagner. Even though he's solid, he's not the same guy.
I don't
Jalen
know.
Ramsey.
I hope they weren't expecting him to be though. I guess I was kind of hoping that they would slip him in around other talented individuals, and I hope they wasn't expecting Seattle Bobby Wagner, but I was hoping maybe they expect him to at least be solid enough for them to get by around the other talent that they had on defense.
And, I mean, and you may very well be right. I'm just saying, looking from my observation, he's not his usual self, and he looks a lot slower. He looks like he's hit that weight and that size is starting to kind of get to him. But then you look at the Rams secondary. I love Jalen Ramsey, but Jalen Ramsey has times and lapses in coverage, and he's had moments where some head scratches. You like, damn, this is the same Jalen Ramsey,
Seriously,
so he's
seriously.
had his struggles this year as well. And then that's just on the defensive side of the ball. At least they're formidable offensively. They're a really they have protection issues, and that is tough in the NFC. That's tough. We'll talk about it in just a second. They play the 49ers next week, and I don't think it doesn't look pretty for them, in my opinion. But yeah, so it's just I don't know how they're going to pass it up. That's going to be something that's going to seriously keep them from contending. Because once you
Yeah.
get playoff time and you have guys pinning their ears back, and we're not going to make it seem like Matthew Stafford is a world-class athlete, right? He's not out here running around stiff-arming guys, right? He's an older guy. He's been in the league 13, 14 years. He's just
Mm-hmm.
trying to get the ball out of his hands. And I think people are slowly but surely, starting to key in a little bit on what Sean McVay likes to do with Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp didn't have a big game, right? I want to say
And
he
they signed Allen Robinson, and thus far that doesn't seem to be panning out either.
well,
I
they're not
think they're
using.
starting to miss OBJ.
True. But I think they're realizing that Allen Robinson, he has to be used a certain type of way. And here
Mm-hmm.
he's a contested 50-50 ball catch guy. He's not
Mm-hmm.
a big separator, and that's not an indictment on him. That's just his style. He's a big body guy. But they haven't been able to find a way to get him the ball on a consistent basis as they need to. So right now they just look like a lot of names. They look like they got a Super Bowl hangover. They thought stuff was sweet, and it just didn't work out for them. But this was a very sloppy game, and I'll be honest, I don't. As it stands, looking at both of these teams, I could see a scenario where both of them don't make the
Mm-hmm.
playoffs.
And especially, and we talked about it last week. Especially with although they took the loss this week, especially with Jimmy Garoppolo getting back in as the Niners quarterback and someone that they are confident in, someone that they have gotten to the Super Bowl with, and as we said, they have a Super Bowl roster. So that's a valid point. It's a valid point. I can see them not only not winning this division, but possibly missing out on
Yeah,
the playoffs.
it's possible because, like I said, the NFC is competitive this year. So, uh, obviously, that was one game, and last but not least, and this was
Green Bay
perhaps
and Tampa Bay.
Green Bay and Tampa Bay, a rather ugly game, but I think one that is interesting because you're looking at where both of those quarterbacks are. Obviously, Tom Brady way older, but Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers both in their twilight years.
Mm-hmm.
Multiple MVPs. Both have a ring at this point, but it's right now it's a different feel for them. I'll focus on Tampa Bay first. Tom hasn't looked the same. in the past 3 weeks. Now, granted, he's played great defenses.
He has.
He
And then
has.
I think also this week he was legit down his top three receivers. So I think we have to take it, although he hasn't looked great, I think we have to take it all with a grain of salt.
No, we do, but it's still, you still have to be a little bit concerned. There's been some inaccuracy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, People have got to him more times than in recent memory, because usually Tom gets the ball out of his hands, and he's visibly looked frustrated.
I was gonna
Now,
say too, there's been especially at the game the other day, there was a couple times where I seen um like I don't know if it's because he's getting older, like the pressure is really starting to get to him.
to
Like I
Tom,
seen maybe once or twice where the pressure got around him the other day and he just kind of went down. He just kind of gave it up. Like, he didn't try to step into the pocket and he didn't try to, he just kind of just went down. Like it was almost like he was seeing ghosts.
or yeah, I mean that's always a possibility. Or that's the way I look at it. If I'm Tom, I'm 43 years old. I'm a certain age.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pick and choose my battles. Now, if this is the
Right. Right.
playoffs, I'm stepping up in that pocket. But if we in a regular season game, I'm not gonna kill myself for 17 games. And he's older. He got a family to worry about. And I also think that that's something that could very well be affecting him. He's dealing with home issues too,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to work through that as well. So he hasn't looked the same. But Tampa Bay, um, offensively, it's attrition. Mike Evans will be back. Obviously, he got suspended the one game for the fight with
Mm-hmm.
Marcus Lattimore. I can't speak for Chris Godwin. Julio Jones, I think after this year, he just needs to hang it up.
Oh man.
Him and AJ Green. He's already hurt. He has I want to say a partially torn PCL. He has the same injury that Zeke had last year, and that
And
robs you.
I think that was today. Sean Payton was on Colin Cowherd. And
Mm-hmm.
FYI, Sean Payton, I think they have him coming on every week on the Colin Cowherd show every Tuesday. And
Yeah,
he is extremely insightful. Like I would
yeah.
advise everyone to kind of tune in on Tuesdays. He gives his whole like week 2 take. He's on there for maybe about 30 minutes or so. Gives his whole, not week 2, but week to week take on the games.
Uh,
Extremely exciteful. He said something that had me dying. He was like, you know what? At this point in his career, he said, I think Julio Jones is just he's literally always questionable. Every week, just put questionable by his name because he's always dinged up. There's
he's
always
always
something with him at this
yeah.
point in his career.
It's caught up to him, and you're seeing that right now in Tampa Bay, and they were so excited. Oh, they got Julio Jones. It's just it's not always going to carry over. So right now there are limited options, and you could see a situation where if things don't get better and certain guys don't step up, this could be very similar to Tom's 2019 year where they
That
were
last
deep.
season in New England.
Oh, where they was
Yeah.
just ugly offensive ball. I mean, he was still efficient as much as he could be, but it was just ugly offensive ball and just patching things up and making something out of nothing. So you could easily see something like that happening here. Now that's the offense. Defensively, they're special. Defensively,
Yeah.
I could argue that they have a stake. They have an argument that they might be the number one defense in football right now.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
they haven't allowed. No one scored 15 points on them yet. And
Yeah.
that's how good they've been. They have a pass rush. Their secondary's been playing more disciplined. We know what they got at linebacker with, Devin White, Levante David, and defensive line wise, they've added, Akeem Hicks and still got Vita
Still got
Vea.
Vita Vea. Mm-hmm. They got
They got
names
pieces
all over defensively,
all
bro.
all over. So it's just a really, really great defense, and that is going to be what's going to continue to keep them in games. You heard what I said about Dallas. I think Tampa Bay is that and more, from a
Mm-hmm.
defensive standpoint. So that's going to be what carries them through. On the Green Bay side, obviously they won the game, 14-12. You saw Aaron get a little bit more. He's starting to buy in more to, okay, I'm going to spread the ball around. I'm going to trust some of these young guys. That's what's going to help them figure things out moving forward. He can't continue to be this, I want one number one wide receiver and everybody eats off of him. No, this is going
Mm-hmm.
to be a shared effort. Like you're looking at some of these names of guys that had Romeo Dobbs, Randall
Who
Cobb
led
has
them in receiving?
who led them in receiving. Randall Cobb. You had Alan Lazard. He contributed. Tyler Davis.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he didn't have. He had two. They targeted Juwan Winfrey. And then obviously
Robert Tonyan, the
Robert
tight
Tonyan.
end.
Yeah, yeah. So this is once again, it's going to be a shared effort. I think maybe somebody emerges from the crowd and makes themselves that number one guy. But if not, you just got to deal with it how you deal with it. You got a nice 1-2 running back combo with AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones. And defensively, if Green Bay if they pick it up, which they very well could in the coming weeks, Green Bay has the potential to be a top 5 unit defense.
And that's and
Stacked.
that's and that's rare we say that about them, but you're absolutely right on that one.
They're stacked from top to bottom. They
Mm-hmm.
just have to piece it and put it together, and they're not far off. So that was that game. I just thought both teams looked. It was a real tight game. Both teams are clearly playoff contenders, but it just kind of showcased how good both defenses can be, and how much of a transition this is for both quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. But both teams will be okay moving forward. But those are the games that
They
interested
will.
me.
They will. They will. Um, Beautiful, beautiful. I guess we can go ahead and jump into our
Picks
week
week 4.
4 picks. Week 4 picks. You ready?
Let's jump into it. You gotta pull it up.
Yeah. I got to pull it up. All right. So Thursday night game, which I think should be a really good game. We got 3-0 Miami Dolphins going to Cincinnati to play the Bengals. The Bengals are 4-point favorites in that game. Who you got and what's the score?
I got Cincinnati. I got Cincinnati. I see this being a score. Let's go 30-20. Cincinnati's defense is no laydown. They'll figure some things out. I think you have to obviously get more secondary involved. They use the kid Dax Hill. Hopefully, the one they drafted in the first round. But offensively, like I said, they couldn't have benefited any more from playing who they played the first 2 weeks because they're not going to see that type of pressure. Miami doesn't have a front that's that good.
Although their defense, and we didn't mention this, although their defense has been playing well this year.
Oh, Miami.
Yeah.
Oh no, it has. It's definitely been playing well. And Javon Holland is looking like a all Pro Bowler type of player. So, but I got Cincinnati just because of the weapons. I think Jamar Chase gets loose this week. You don't usually don't. He's not going to be quiet every week, and I don't know, what their plan is as far as keeping him quiet. But let's be honest, you focus on keeping him quiet, then T Higgins goes off on you, then Tyler Boyd goes off on you.
Tyler Boyd just went off Sunday, so yeah.
Exactly.
They got a three-headed monster.
Yeah, so that's what I got. So I got Cincinnati 30-20.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Cincinnati in this game as well. I'm gonna say you said 30-20. I'll say Cincinnati. Let's go 33-17. I think they win it fairly handily. I think you see their offense really get it going in this game. And yeah, I'm gonna say 33-17 Cincinnati. I meant to get a paper and some pens so I can write our picks down, but it's all right. All right, so we're gonna go Vikings at Saints. And actually, I don't even think this game is in New Orleans. It's one of those early start games. I think they're playing elsewhere.
Overseas.
But, yeah, I think they're playing overseas because it's a really early start to that game. But we got Minnesota Vikings and the New Orleans Saints. I think they're playing overseas. But this will be an interesting game, a kind of a bridge game for both teams. Who you got?
I'm gonna take Minnesota. I think if they lean on a running game, they'll be able to catch New Orleans off guard, similar to what you saw Carolina do last week, or this past week. Minnesota kind of have strength on both sides of the ball. I don't know. I guess I just feel like they're the more well-rounded team right now. Justin Jefferson should get back going. I'm gonna go Minnesota 24-16.
I actually think this will be an ugly game just because I think the Saints defense, I think that much of the Saints defense. So I think this would be a rather low scoring game. I'm going to go Vikings, but I'm going to say it's a very low scoring game. I'll say 16-13 Vikings.
Okay.
Next game, interesting game. We got the Cleveland Browns 2-1 at the Atlanta Falcons, a team who, as we say, has been playing hard all three games this year. It's really a pick 'em. Cleveland's favored by 1.5. It's really kind of a pick 'em. But who you got? The game is
I
in
have a
Atlanta.
I have Atlanta. I have
Okay.
Atlanta on this one. Don't forget, remember, Miles Garrett just got into a car accident.
Yeah, and I
Um,
and I and I hope he has a grant. He just got released from the hospital. None life-threatening injuries, but
right,
I just hope he's okay. They say his car flipped over. One
right,
car flipped over, leaving practice. So really
right.
crazy. Really fortunate that he was able to walk away or whatever. And
Mhm.
yeah, just keep him in the prayers. But yeah,
Yeah.
he'll
So he
probably
was.
miss this one.
Yeah, yeah. And they said they haven't ruled him out yet, but let's be honest, a guy goes through that, they'll probably sit him. He is a he is to Cleveland's defense what Aaron Donald is to the Rams defense.
Hmm.
And I think that that's a substantial loss. Another thing, right now, Atlanta is running the football very, very well.
They are.
Like,
They are. We
like
were just talking about Cordero Patterson. Legit has a
exactly,
chance to be, a Pro Bowler this year and running the heck out the ball.
exactly. And I think some of those big bodies they have can create mismatches. Drake London and Kyle Pitts. So
Hmm.
uh, I could see Atlanta winning this game. I think it'll be close. I'm gonna say Atlanta 17-14.
Um, I think this is going to be a really close game. I think both teams will find success running the ball because um, the Cleveland Browns have been able to run the ball really well thus far this year as well. So I think both teams will find success running the ball. But like you said, I think with the possibility of Myles Garrett being out, I think that's a huge loss for the Cleveland Browns. And so I'm going to go with the Falcons as well. I'll say Atlanta Falcons. Um, I'll say 27-16 Atlanta Falcons. I think they win it by double digits. Um, Going to the next game here, we got the Washington Commanders at your Dallas Cowboys. I think we'll probably be on the same page here. The Cowboys are favored by 3. The game is in Dallas here. Who you got?
I'm gonna take Dallas, and it's not because I think that Dallas is just that much better than Washington. I just think the matchup right now is not in Washington's favor. On the
Mm-hmm.
defensive side of the ball, they don't have Chase Young; he's on PUP. On the offensive side of the ball, they have currently as is one of the worst offensive lines in the league,
Mm-hmm.
and they have really bad protection issues. And Dallas is currently leading the league in sacks, and they, just to give you an idea of how efficient that they are, they pressured Daniel Jones 24 times last night, right, which is
Where
most in the last 2 years. So this, it could get ugly, and that's going to give them a chance week in and week out. So that's why I got Dallas. Uh, I could see this being a one where Dallas kind of busted wide open a little bit more. I'm going to say Dallas 34-10.
I agree. I think the Cowboys kind of win this one going away. The Commanders just gave up 9 sacks to the Philadelphia Eagles, and I mean, I think the Cowboys, as I mentioned earlier, they have just as good, if especially when it comes to getting after the quarterback. I think they
Mhm,
have just as good a front four as anybody. As you said, they're leading the league in sacks right now. And I think they're
mhm.
going to make life a living hell for Carson Wentz. I think they get multiple turnovers in this game. And I
Right.
think they give the offense some really short fields. And thus, this game could get out of hand rather quickly. So I'm going to say I'll go 29-13 Dallas Cowboys.
Okay. Fair enough.
Um, all right. Another interesting game. Seattle Seahawks at the Detroit Lions. Both of these teams are 1-2 right now. The game is in Detroit. Detroit is 4.5 point favorites. What you think?
I got Detroit. Just because I think they'll be able to focus on that, use that running game to kind of get them going. Um, Now, one thing to pay attention to is Amron St. Brown is battling. He got a little nicked up last
Hmm.
week, so they'll try to monitor that. Now, apparently, they said the results came back good. It doesn't look like he'll be out multiple weeks, but he could possibly miss this week. And but they once again they still have weapons. They still have DJ Chark. They still have TJ Hawkinson.
Hmm.
They still have Josh Reynolds, so they can get
Hmm.
it done. And then defensively, I think they have the players. They can get a little bit of Aiden Hutchinson, Charles Harris. They can get some pressure on Geno Smith and kind of cause some cause some turnovers or cause some hell. What I would be most worried about is how that secondary is going to match up with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. But
Yeah.
I mean, that's the big question. But the Lions have big corners. I want to say both their starting corners are 6 foot and up. So, we'll see how it works out. But I have the Lions. It'll be a grind fest because the Seahawks aren't going to lay down. Uh,
Hmm.
I'm gonna go 19. I'm gonna go the Lions 19-13.
Okay. Um, we were saying earlier how obviously the Lions are heading in the right direction. They've been playing really good, tough, respectable ball, but they just still have to try to. They're still trying to figure out how to win those close games in this league. And I think that this will be one of those situations where they do figure out a way to win and they do come out on top.
Mhm.
The Seahawks are going to play them tough. I agree with you. It may be some issues as far as in a secondary trying to stay in front of DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. But I think this is one of those games where they finally figure out a way to come out on top here. So I'm gonna go Detroit Lions. I'll say uh I'll say 1916 Detroit Lions.
Okay, fair enough.
Next game, divisional game here, interesting game, could be another bridge game here, so to speak. The Tennessee Titans at the Indianapolis Colts, two teams that have kind of struggled this year. The Colts did finally get a big win against the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday. Game is in Indianapolis. Indy's 3-point favorites. Who you got?
I'm gonna take Indy. I have to check, but I hear Leonard. Well, his name is Shaq now.
Yeah,
Uh,
I be having to remember that too.
yeah, was it? Is it Shaq?
Jack Leonard.
Shaq, yeah, Shaq Leonard. He is. He might possibly be coming back, and he's like, the commander. He's like the quarterback of that defense. That's an
Hmm.
elite unit. So even without him, I can see them being able to contain Tennessee and what they're doing. The lack of a passing game, the lack of a number one, is really hurting Tennessee. So I think that's
Hmm.
what's holding them back from being a formidable unit, which is why I think they had no business beating the Raiders. Uh, but once again, I think this is going to be another game. It's going to be fought tough. I'm going to go Indy 2010. They continue to put it together. Michael Pittman continues. Maybe this would be where you see Jonathan Taylor finally have one of his games
Yeah.
like he would have last year. So this could be he could easily pick it up here in this game right now.
Obviously, these are divisional opponents. This is going to be another tough game. You were talking about the Titans receivers, and I agree they don't have that number one guy. However, we finally seen a little bit of a Robert Woods sighting for them last game. I think he had about 4 or 5 receptions, a little over 80 yards or whatnot. So we finally kind of seen a Robert Woods sighting. I think it'll be interesting to see if they can build off of that. Take some pressure off of Derrick Henry running the ball, which I think we're going to see a lot of. With that being said, I think I'm going to go with the Colts as well in a tough one, divisional game, so it'll be a tough one. But I'm going to go Colts. I'll say Colts 21-16 over the Titans. Um, Next game, we got the Chicago Bears at the New York Giants. Game is in New York. The Giants are 3-point favorites in this game. Who you got?
I want to pick the Giants, but Chicago is just they're that team that I'm like, how the fuck are they winning?
No, I'm a Bears fan, and I agree.
Uh, this is a tough one. I'll tell you this. I'll go Giants. I think it's gonna be another slugfest, but I'm gonna go to Giants 14-7. Um, Now they'll be limited because they lost Sterling Shepard for the year. He tore his ACL non-contact. But I think Saquon
And
Barkley
I don't know
is
what's going on with Kenny Galladay. They need to just go on and let him go.
well, I think probably some part they don't have faith in him, and then he's probably lost some confidence because Kenny Galladay not too long ago was a
Yeah.
Pro Bowler. He was a stud. So, just unfortunate situation, but yeah, I think it's going to be a very low scoring game. It'll be ugly. It'll be a defensive game. But I'll take New York. I think they make the one play. Maybe say they spring Saquon Barkley open
Mm-hmm.
on either the rushing or passing game, or maybe they finally fucking use Kadarius Toney. You
Yeah.
know, and are not able to score. Maybe special teams or something like that, or maybe catch them on a deep ball. But I'm gonna go 14-7 Giants.
Well, look, call me a homer, okay?
Hey,
Because
take a swing. Hey, take.
I'm taking my Bears, okay?
Mhm.
I think quietly our defense this year has been playing really, really well. Roquan Smith, obviously, Roquan Smith is Roquan Smith, man. Like he made the play the other day, he made the interception to put us in field goal range to kick the game winning field goal the other day. And obviously Matt Eberflus, defensive guy, he has the defense playing pretty well. The defense has really been kind of keeping us in games while we try to figure out whatever we're doing offensively. David Montgomery got nicked up, but like I said, for you fantasy guys, you might want to look into this kid, Khalil Herbert. Really, really talented kid. I think we run the ball. I think our defense gets a turnover or two from Daniel Jones, as he will cough it up. I think we get a turnover or two, and I think that those turnovers make the difference in the game. So I'm going to go to Bears in another close one, another ugly one, too. I'll say Bears. Um, I'll go 17-13 Bears.
Indeed.
Um, all right. A really interesting game here. I'm really interested to see who you pick here. You got the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Philadelphia Eagles. They actually have the Eagles as 6.5 point favorites for this game. I think that's a little high. But Jaguars in Philly at the Eagles. Who you got?
Oh, I got Jacksonville in this game.
I
Uh,
knew you were gonna pick those.
Look, and it's because defensively they make me believe. Uh, and the crazy, I haven't even touched on the offense, but defensively they make me believe. They have guys that can play the run really well. They can play the pass. They have studs. Josh Allen is a stud. Trayvon Walker is
Mm-hmm.
is is looking like a stud. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna tell you this: the biggest draw, the guy who I think really separates them and really takes them over the top, and is making them slowly become one of the better defensive units in football. Devin Lloyd from Utah, the rookie linebacker that they
Mm,
drafted in the first round, he can do
mm-hmm.
everything. He can blitz, he can cover. He has a high football IQ. He understands what's going on. That guy can play, and
Word.
that have great secondary players. Shaquem Griffin or
Mm-hmm.
Shaquille Griffin, the twin,
I know
and
one of
then
them. Yeah.
one of them, Shaquille, and then they got Tyson Campbell, and then they got some. I want to say was it Rashad Jenkins and Andre Cisco at Saint. They got some talent, man. And then offensively, they got a buffet of weapons that they can use as well to attack Philly with. I think if they focus on running the ball with James Robinson, I think they can raise some hell because Philly has shown that they're
Mm-hmm.
susceptible against the run.
Agreed.
Um, and I just think Doug Peterson's gonna come into this game wanting to raise hell.
Yeah.
Um, so
Going back to Philly, and that's an interesting storyline there.
Hey, it's an interesting storyline. So I think don't be surprised if this Jacksonville team comes in there and they've done it the last 2 weeks. If they come in there and smack them in the mouth and punch them in the mouth and say we're tougher, they did it to the
Yeah.
Chargers and they did it to the Colts.
Yeah.
They've watch this. Factor this in. They've allowed 10 points in the last 2 games.
Mm. Yeah. The defense is definitely playing great. I think I'll say this. I think so far this season, this will be the Eagles' toughest game thus far this season. I think the Jags are going to come to play. I think Doug Peterson will have those guys ready. As we talked about with the Eagles, this will be a 4-quarter game. They're going to have to play all 4 quarters. With that being
Being
said,
said,
I think no, I gotta say, man, I think I don't want to be premature here, but I think Justin Hurts is making a believer out of me, man. I gotta say, he's I'm about this close to jumping on the bandwagon, man. So, with that being said, I think the Eagles are a slightly better total team. And so I think they win a close one. I think it's going and crazy enough, I think it's gonna be a lot of points in this game. So I'm gonna go
possible.
Philly. I'll say Philly 31, Jacksonville 27.
Oh, did I even give a score?
I don't think you gave a score. Nope.
I don't even think I gave a score. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go. What you said? Did you say 24?
I said 31-27 Philly.
See, I'm gonna go 20. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna go 24-14.
Jacksonville.
Jacksonville.
Okay. That's gonna be a great game. That's gonna be a great
Yeah,
game to watch.
that's the game I'm looking forward to. Yeah.
Hey, yeah, I'm excited about that one. And the other one too. I'll get to that in a minute. New York Jets at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh is 3.5 favorites here. The game is in Pittsburgh. Who you got?
So this one's hard. So I was doing my pick'ems at work, but I'm still trying to figure out if Zach Wilson's going to play. I mean, granted, he still has a lot to prove as a quarterback, but I feel like they need that young juke, and his arm does unlock different possibilities in an offense. I think I'm gonna have to ride with the Steelers, just because of the experience. Because you look at the Jets, they're mostly really a young team. That's a young team right there. The Steelers still have guys that understand certain game situations. I think even though people get down on Mitch, he's not special, but Mitch knows how to manage the game. He knows how to not make mistakes, and he actually put some pretty good balls out there. People were looking at that George Pickens catch last week. People forget Mitchell Trubisky had to give him that ball. He had to put it in a place where only he could get to it. So I'm gonna go with Pittsburgh. It's not gonna be a high scoring game. I'll go Pittsburgh 20-17.
Okay. I guess if I have to pick an upset this week, and I don't know how much of an upset it is, but I'm gonna pick this one. I'm gonna take the Jets.
And I'm not mad at you for that.
I'm gonna take the Jets, with or without Zach Wilson. I'm gonna take the Jets. I think they found a way to kind of stymie Najee Harris. I think they make Mitch Trubisky win the game, and not that he'll play bad, but I just don't think he'll make the throws necessary to win the game. And I think the Jets find a way to. I think they get the running game going too. I think we finally see Breece Hall have a game. I think they get the running game going. And possible. Yeah, I'm gonna take the Jets. This will be my upset for this week. I'm gonna take the Jets. I'm gonna go 19-13 Jets.
19-13. Okay.
All right. Here's the other game that I'm really excited about this week. Buffalo Bills at the Baltimore Ravens. Buffalo is 3-point favorites in this game. This one should be fun. Who you got?
I'm gonna take Buffalo because one, they're a high-powered offensive team, and defensively, they're hell raisers. Now, we were looking at the Miami game. Miami has a pretty solid offensive line, like pretty good. They moved a lot of guys around. Remember, they signed Teron Armstead from the Saints. Connor Williams from Dallas. He's now used to be a guard. He's their starting center, and from my understanding, is playing at a very high level. And the tackle they drafted out of the first round at the USC, Austin Jackson, he's on the right side for him. So a lot of talent in a lot of different places. So they weren't a laydown. Now you look at the Ravens; they have a plethora of injuries. I want to say they're about to their second or third left tackle.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not mistaken, they're nicked up in some other spots too. So they have some protection issues, and the Bills aren't the type of team that you want to have protection issues against. They still got Von Miller, the second year kid Gregory Rosu is
Mm-hmm.
really starting to catch his stride. They still got AJ Epinesa. They still got Boogie Basham.
Edmonds.
Edmonds who blitzes. They got Boogie Basham. So it's gonna the protection's gonna be big. The big question is gonna be is can they corral what formation they come up? Can they corral Lamar Jackson, keep him in the pocket, and make him beat you that way? So, but I just feel like the combination of protection issues for Baltimore and some of the injuries that they have on defense, especially in the secondary, is going to be
Mm.
what dooms them. So I think it'll be fairly close, but it'll still be a 7 point game. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go Buffalo. I'm going to go 31-24.
I think that this will be a really fun game. I think this will
Yeah.
be a really close game. As you said, Baltimore does kind of have a litany of injuries, but I think Lamar Jackson is going to make a lot of plays with his feet, and he's going to give Buffalo all they can handle. And the reason I say with his feet is because I think they will be able to get some pressure on him, and I think he'll be kind of forced to get out of the pocket and make a keep some drives going. And I think this will be a really, really close, a really, really tough game for them. Um, but like you mentioned earlier, the Ravens, they seem to have a few issues in the secondary that they haven't quite figured out. And I think Josh Allen has a party. Um, he's another guy who's right at the top of the MVP candidates right now. And so, with that being said, I'm going to go with the Bills in a close one, though. I'm going to say Bills. I'll say 27-23 Buffalo. I think Baltimore probably has a chance. They probably have the ball last with a drive, but I think Buffalo gets a stop and sneaks out of there. 27-23 Buffalo. That's going to be a really good game, though.
Most
Um,
definitely.
this could be a trap game right here. We got the LA Chargers at the Houston Texans. Right now, they have the Chargers as 5 point favorites. This could be a trap game, though. Who you got coming on top?
Uh, it'll be tough because the Houston's going to challenge them, but I'm just going to take the Chargers. They're supposed to get Keenan Allen back.
Hmm.
They'll be able to get some things going offensively, get the ball out of Justin Herbert's hands a little bit faster. Mike Williams is still playing at a high level. Once again, they'll get Keenan, and then they got the young guys, Jalen Guyton and
Actually,
Palmer.
I think I seen a report today. Guyton's out for the season now. He tore his ACL
Oh,
toward the
that
end of
is
the game.
right.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. Well, look, so then they
but
got
they
Palmer.
still got it. They yeah they
Yeah,
yeah they still
they
got
still
some
got
guys.
weapons. So I think eventually they'll pull away. Despite having some of the injuries at certain places, I look at Rashawn Slater. That's the big injury. They lost him for the season.
That's
That's
another one. Lost him for
that's
the
big.
season. Yeah,
So
huge.
that's huge for him. But I still feel their team to figure it out, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So I'm gonna go Chargers 28 to 17.
Um, I think the Chargers kind of come out and send a message this game, especially defensively. I think they come out and really send a message. I think they give the Texans some all kinds of problems. I think Bosa and Mack, they get a lot of pressures. I think they each get a sack or two. Um, I'm gonna go Chargers. I'm gonna say big too. I'm gonna say Chargers 35-7. I'm gonna say they win this game big. Um, yeah, 35-7 Chargers. Let's see. I'm gonna get into the next game here. Another interesting game for both teams. Both these teams could use a win here. Arizona Cardinals at the Carolina Panthers. They actually have Carolina. Well, it's kind of a pick 'em. They're favored by a point and a half, so kind of a pick 'em here. But yeah, Arizona Cardinals at the Carolina Panthers. Who wins?
I think I'm gonna take Carolina in that game,
Hmm.
and it's just because I feel like they have the weapons. They have the weapons, especially in strengths defensively. They have a really good secondary, and they have
Mhm.
guys that you can do a lot of things with. Dante Jackson, J.C. Horn is doing a lot, moving around, and they have guys like Jeremy Chin and Xavier Rhodes in the back, Xavier Woods in the back end. I think they'll do just enough to kind of how can I say it, irritate, and I think they'll be able to shock them. This not isn't going to be a high scoring game, but once again, neither team is just great on offense.
Mhm.
So I'm going to go Carolina. I'll go 19 to 16. I think this will be a very, very close game, but Carolina is right now slightly more talented defensively, and they're more talented offensively too. Obviously, Kyler's just a better quarterback.
I think this will be a close game as well. Um, I actually think that this will be a game where I think Kyler Murray, for all he is, I think Kyler Murray is the best player in this game, and I think that this is a game ripe for him to get them out of there and sneak them out of there with another win. So I think Kyler makes a few plays late. They probably get a game-winning field goal and sneak away with this win. I'm gonna go Arizona Cardinals. I'm gonna say 23-20 Arizona Cardinals.
23.
Um, we got the New England Patriots at the Green Bay Packers. Obviously, Mac Jones is gonna miss a few weeks, so
Packers.
yeah, and they are 10-point favorites in this game.
I'm
10
going.
point
I'm going.
favorites.
I'm
So
going with the Packers. Even though the Packers are dysfunctional, I'm going to go with them. It's probably still won't be high scoring.
hmm
So I mean, 24-9. I mean, you say I don't think the Packers are that great on offense, so you'll see some back and forth, but they'll find a way to close it out.
um, I think the Packers win this one as well. I agree. I still don't think we see a total effort offensively. I still don't think it would be just this great effort offensively. But I think, matter of fact, who's going for the Patriots? Is it Hoyer? Who's going for the
Brian
Patriots?
Hoyer. Brian
Hoyer.
Hoyer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um. Yeah. I don't think we'll see a great effort from the Packers offensively. I actually think the Patriots defense will play them tough for probably about three and a half quarters. But
Yeah.
I think they'll finally get a score and kind of pull away in this game. Um, I'm gonna say 19-3 Green Bay Packers.
Okay.
19-3.
Fair enough. They're
Um,
definitely good enough for it.
all right, here it is right here. Denver Broncos at the Las Vegas Raiders. And they actually have the Raiders 2.5 point favorites in this game. Denver Broncos at Las Vegas Raiders. Will the
I'm
Raiders
gonna
get their first win?
Something's got to give. I'm taking the Raiders
Hmm.
because they haven't looked They just haven't closed out. They haven't looked sloppy in their wins. I mean, their
Yeah,
losses. Like the Broncos look like bad.
yeah.
Like the Broncos don't. They don't look like they. Some of those guys don't look like they belong on the field. Like it's pretty bad. The Raiders, they just have to close some games out and finish and have an efficient second half or fourth quarter. So I'm going to go with the Raiders. Uh, they have the talent to challenge them on offense. And defensively, they can make a few stops. They should begin. People forget last week they were missing quite a few players. They were missing Denzel Perryman. They were missing Hunter Renfro. So they'll get guys like that back this upcoming week. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Raiders 20-7.
Ooh, okay, okay. Um, you are right with every point you have made. But for whatever reason, I just think the Broncos win this game. Don't ask me why. I couldn't give you no X's and O's reasons or whatnot. I just think the Broncos find a way to win this game. I think their defense is still playing at a really high level.
Yeah.
And I don't ask me why. I can't give you no X's and O's reasons. I can't even say Russell Wilson will finally break out and have this phenomenal game. I just think the Broncos find a way to win it. And so
Well, we'll see.
I'm gonna say Denver. I'm gonna say let's go I'm gonna say 2014 Denver Broncos.
Okay.
Don't ask me why. I just think they found a way to win. I have no X's and O's reasons other than I just got this itching that Denver's gonna pull this one out.
Well, who knows? I mean, maybe your gut serves you well. Who knows? I just feel like something's got to give. The Raiders got to win. If they're gonna do it, they're gonna have to. They can beat a team like this Denver team that's pretty underachieving.
Word.
All right, what's next?
The Sunday night game. We almost home. The Sunday night game. Kansas City Chiefs at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This should be an interesting one. Kansas City is favored by 2 points in this game. You know, it's always great when these two teams play each other. It's always fireworks. Who you got, man? It should be interesting. Who you got?
I'm rocking with Tampa Bay. Once again, arguably the number one defense in the league. And right now, you're playing a Kansas City team with no Tyreek Hill, so it's not like they're going to stretch the field against you. There, you could put body on body and go to war. You know, you probably put Antoine Winfield on Travis Kelce. He'll get some looks on him, and then obviously they got linebackers Devin White and Levante David that you could throw at him and match up with him as well. So they're going to go that way. I think Tampa Bay will make Kansas City play their game. Hopefully Leonard Fournette they're able to get a running game going with Leonard Fournette. But I could see this one, being being an ugly one, but not as low scoring. I think it'll be somewhere north. I'd be about 28, 24, right? Kansas City's going to fight, and they're a little bit better defensively than they've been in years past. But I don't know if Kansas City is built to play those type of games, like knockout, drag out defense, hitting, running the football. And I think that's where you'll see it kind of come back to haunt Kansas City because they don't have that consistent rushing attack right now. But that's Andy Reid. That's never been a part of his offense to be just consistent, bona fide. But hey, man, defense matters, dude. And right now, Tampa Bay is playing it at an extremely high level. Don't be surprised if Kansas City scores less than that.
Yeah, man. There are some really, really good matchups this week. I'm gonna go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as well. I think the Chiefs make it close late. I think they make it fun, but I'm gonna go Tampa Bay as well. Mike Evans should be back for this game, so
he will be back. Yeah,
and so I think having him back will take a little bit of pressure off of some of the other guys. The Gages, the Russell Gages, the Rashard Perrymans. Both of those guys had a fumble last week, key fumbles as well, in some key situations for them. I think Mike Evans being back takes a lot of pressure off of them. I think Leonard Fournette kind of gets it. I think Leonard Fournette probably goes over maybe 100 all-purpose yards, rushing and receiving. And I'm a believer in this Tampa Bay defense as well. I think it's hard to just stop Patrick Mahomes, but I think they slow him down just enough. And I'm gonna say Tampa Bay. I think I'm gonna actually go with the same score you gave. I'm gonna say Tampa Bay 28-24. Should be a really fun game to watch, though. Patrick Mahomes is gonna make a few plays, so it's gonna be a really fun game to watch.
100%.
Last but not least, Monday night, and you kind of previewed to this game earlier, so I think I know where you're going. You got the LA Rams at the San Francisco 49ers. San Francisco is 2.5-point favorites in this game. This should be a really good, really highly contested, and I think a really physical game. Who you got here?
I'm going to take the 49ers. And I think this could be one of those games that kind of get a little bit out of hand.
I think we've seen them. I think when they played last year in San Francisco jumped all over them. It was toward the end of the season.
Yeah, and it could be potentially even worse, with what they have. With having serious protection issues, they'll be able to make some adjustments. And I think, once again, they'll be able to slow Cooper Kupp down, not completely stop him. But, I mean, man, don't be surprised. I'm looking at the score. I could see this being a 34-17 affair. They get the running game going with Wilson Jr. and Deebo Samuel. I think that Jimmy Garoppolo is getting more reps. People forget he didn't play all preseason, so this is him. This is his preseason, but he's a little bit more warm. George Kittle is finally fully entrenched back into the system. Brandon
And that could
Ayuk
be
is looking
big.
better.
It could
That
be
could be
big.
big. Brandon Ayuk is looking better, and then once again from a defensive
I
standpoint,
think he's probably the happiest that Garoppolo is back under center because they seem to have a really nice rapport. Ayuk.
Ayuk, oh yeah, 100%. And Ayuk has gotten better, and I think he's ready to take the next jump in his career. But and then defensively, they got Nick Bosa, and then they drafted a kid at USC this year. I want to say second or third round, Drake Jackson, and he's looking pretty damn good himself. So it's not a great matchup for the Rams because the Rams are not playing explosive enough on offense, and their line isn't good. So it's gonna need to the Rams are gonna have to have a phenomenal defensive performance to win this game. But I just don't see that happening.
I think it'll be a little closer than you do. Um, Obviously, it's always a good game when these two teams get together, man. It's always highly contested. I think I'm going to go with the 49ers as well, but I think it'll be a one possession game. I'm going to go Niners. I'll say 23-17 49ers. But I think this will be a really, really good game, especially down the stretch into the fourth quarter. I think this will be a really good game. But yeah, 23-17 49ers. And there you have it. Those are our picks for the week, man. It's some really, I mean,
It is.
it's legit maybe 6 or 7 games that I think are gonna be just really the Jags and the Eagles, Bills, Ravens, Chiefs, Buccaneers, Niners, even the Thursday night game, Miami and Cincinnati. Like it's gonna
Oh
be really
yeah.
good games.
Oh, and Cincinnati's wearing those white units, by the way. Those white
Yeah,
and
I
black.
seen it. Yeah, I seen it. Those
Ooh-wee.
are
So I
tough.
can't. Those are tough. Yeah. So I can't wait to see that. Looks like they look like the White Ranger.
Right? Word for real.
Yeah, the White Dino Ranch. Yeah, it's cold. So that's gonna be fun to watch. But yeah, I'm loving the NFL so far this season. A lot of parity. It's very competitive, and I thought this week was really good because it's teams that we're writing off that I think can be really good, and we're seeing week by week how evenly talented the NFL is, more so than it's been in years past.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's going to be fun. Week 4 is going to be even funner. You get a better idea of who's who, but I don't get
Mhm.
caught up on the undefeated teams this early in the season because we done seen a lot of teams start 2-3-0, and then those
Yeah.
got arrow. So
And I think it's only what the Eagles and the Dolphins are the only 2 undefeated teams left, right?
only 2 undefeated teams left. Yep.
Where and they both have questions. So
Yeah. So a lot to think, a lot to ponder on, but yeah, man. Like I said, it was a fun rooted in sports Tuesday. I know we're a little long winded, but hey, we had to get through these picks and these predictions. Uh,
word,
so yeah, man. I'm definitely looking forward to this upcoming sports week and hopping back on next Tuesday.
word. As always, we'll be right back here next Tuesday.
Uh-huh.
Um, Rooted in Sports Community every Saturday on Twitter
12,
Spaces,
12 p.m.
12
Pacific.
Pacific, 2 p.m. Central.
Mhm.
Once again, man, it's such a fun, such an amazing outlet, man. Like we be going at it, man. And it's if you interested in talking sports and just everybody getting in and just being heard, man, or if you just want to listen in to some guys go at it, man, like that
Mhm.
Rooted in Sports Community is where it's at. Once again, every Saturday, 12 p.m.
12 p.m.
Pacific
Pacific
time,
Standard. Yeah.
2 p.m. Central time on Twitter Spaces. Just go, give us a follow on Twitter as well. Follow us on Instagram at Rooted in Sports. Like and subscribe to the YouTube page. Once again, that's also just Rooted in Sports. You'll see all our episodes pop up. You see our big headed cartoon characters. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Um, and once again, be on the lookout for that rebrand of the Break Room Breakdown coming to you. So
It's
definitely be on the
coming.
lookout for that.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's it. Did I miss anything?
No, man, you hit it right on the head. We got some good sports stuff coming to you guys. Just stay tuned for Rooted in Sports Tuesdays. Obviously we're on every week, and we have some interesting topics coming up. Obviously, we got NFL, NBA will be starting soon, and we got the World Cup the end of this year. So I'm sure we'll have to touch a little bit on that as well. So it's a lot of fun stuff coming up. You guys just stay tuned.
Word, word, word. Yeah, that's it, man. Another great Rooting Sports Tuesday. Much love to everyone. God bless. And yeah, we'll see y'all next Tuesday.
See you guys next time.